Okay. There are a couple of numbers that is very important in knowing which country basically is advanced. The numbers that we look into, first of all, this was before 1990s. We only solely looked into numbers. Intergovernmental organizations, United Nations, all international organizations, including countries, they looked only into numbers. After 1990s, also Human Development Index was included as well, which we're going to talk about all of those. What are basically the numbers and what is Human Development Index?
Okay, let's see if we have highlighted. Is she here?
Okay. Can you guys see it? You guys can, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Couple of numbers that is extremely important, so we can see why we're basically included in developed countries, why the other country is developing, why the other one is least developed. How do we calculate all of these? You guys have probably, why are we calling emerging market versus developing markets? Emerging market, from the word you can see, it's basically fast approaching, right? So countries who have more than 6% of economic growth per year, GDP growth per year, which we're going to talk about all of these, GDP growth per year, they are actually called emerging markets because they're fast approaching to catch up to developed nations. Countries who are established, who are developed already, usually have a growth of 2 to 4%, healthy growth of 2 to 4%. Over 0%, anything is developing because you're positive, you have positive growth, right? Anything could be developing. Well, 1% is a very, very small growth, but it still is developing, it's growing. And then if it's negative, you don't have any economic growth. Now, let's.
What was 2 for 4 called again? I'm sorry.
2 to 4 is a healthy growth for developed economies. For example, United States usually falls between 2 to 4. We have 4.7 also, but usually when you're a developed economy, because you're strong, you're big enough, you don't grow too much or too fast. You're stable, so you're stable between 2 to 4. Now, have you guys heard what GDP is, or the word GDP? What does GDP stand for?
Gross domestic product.
Very good, wow. Gross domestic products, right? How do we calculate gross domestic product? And what is the difference between GDP and GNP? Or right now we call it GNI. It used to be always GNP. Right now, for the last 10, 15 years, we're calling it GNI. We're replacing the word. Gross national product, or GNI is gross national income. Now the key word, the difference between these two, GDP and GNP, the key word here is N and D, right? So I'm going to tell you how to calculate so you see the difference between these two. GDP, basically how you calculate is consumer spending, CS, consumer spending plus. Now, when we say consumer spending, that means how much you and I as consumers pay to the finished good or product. What we buy from basically retail stores, that's the price we're calculating here. Not what manufacturers pay to their suppliers, not what you buy from on eBay used, because that's already been calculated last year or when it was new, right? So the finished value of goods and services that consumer pay for personal consumption, that's consumer spending. Government spending or government expenditures, government spendings, whatever government spends on roads or infrastructure or anything. Investments. Investments, actually all investments could be foreigners, foreign direct investment. Foreigners come here, Chinese, Japanese, national come here and invest. Our investments, citizens' investments, and government investments.
What's the second one?
Government spending.
Government
Yeah,
spending.
government investment and export. Export, basically the formula says trade minus import, so which is export. So consumer spending, GDP, basically equals to consumer spending, government spending, investments, and export. All of that together calculates GDP. Now when you go to World Bank or CIA.gov, all of those, they will show you GDPs by country, and whoever has the highest GDP probably is the strongest country because people can spend more, government spends more, there's a lot of investment in that country, and they have more exports, right? Now, what about GNP? The difference, again, we said domestic and national. When we said domestic GDP, all of these calculations was where? Inside United States. If you say hypothetically we're calculating GDP of United States, these are all in United States. Consumer spending in United States, you and I. Government of United States spending. Investments in the United States. Doesn't matter if it's foreigner invest or we are spending, investment in the United States. And export of the United States. So everything we're calculating within the boundaries of the country, United States. Now when we talk about national, how about if I, as a U.S. citizen, I open a manufacturer in China, how about that income? Where does that go, the revenue? I am a U.S. citizen, and I have to pay taxes eventually here, but I am opening, as a foreign investor, I'm opening a manufacturer in China. Oh, it definitely goes to GDP of China, right?
Yeah.
That definitely goes to GDP of China. But it comes to GNP or GNI of United States, gross national. As an American national, basically where is my money calculated? American national here. Now, if I change my citizenship, I become Chinese completely national citizen, and I'm not American anymore, it will not be calculated here, it will be calculated here. But if my company is an American company and I'm a US national and I open a subsidiary, whatever, in China, it goes to GNP of United States, okay? N stands for national, GNP or GNI. Now, the calculation, let's talk about PPP, and I'm gonna show you the differences. PPP, anybody knows what it stands for?
Purchasing power.
Very good, yeah, purchasing, power, parity. Now, let's calculate how much is $1 in Chinese yuan. Probably $1 in Chinese yuan is 6.87, I guess, Chinese yuan. It is about 112 Japanese yen, and it's about close to $19 or around $19 Mexican peso, right? It went down tremendously, right? So 18 point?
18.60 something.
Yeah.
I just checked.
Okay, 18.60. Yeah, I know it changes so much, like cents though. 18.68, let's say today, right? So this is basically exact. This is nominal. If the income of China, for example, is, I don't know, whatever trillion, we're gonna look into exact numbers. I know the nominal is 12 trillion. The purchasing power parity is 24 billion. I'm sorry, trillion. So when we're calculating, there are two types of GDPs. When you go to different websites, you go to World Bank website, it will show you GDP of China is 12 trillion. When you go to CIA, it will show you GDP of China is 24 trillion. So how is this 12 trillion going, right? What is happening here? The reason is because when you go to World Bank, they're calculating nominal, exact numbers. They say, okay, $1 equal to 6.87, whatever the income of China is, we're dividing by the currency rate exchange today. when you divide it, because it's weaker, it will bring it down to 12 trillion, right? Now, what CIA website is doing, they're doing different, they're calculating different. They're saying, what can we buy with the same, the purchasing power, right? Now, in the past, the purchasing power was calculated based on basket of goods. They would say, it was like right after World War II, they would say, a basket of goods, a basket of necessities for the day. Usually they would calculate with like a loaf of bread, like butter, oil, a dozen of eggs, a basket of goods. How much do we need to pay that one in United States, to buy that one in United States right now, currently, 2018? I don't know, 7, 8? There's a loaf of bread you can literally buy. No, no. You can buy, they're actually 3 for 99 cents. Good ones, really good ones.
Gotta tell me where you shot.
Exactly, you're going very expensive.
That nature harvest, man, that's $4, $5.
So let's say, let's say
I'm
all of
trading
them
double.
together, let's say all of them together are like $10, right? Now, how much do you need to buy in Mexico? Do you need to buy 180 pesos or 190 pesos to buy those?
That's a lot cheaper.
Exactly, right? So when we pay for the basket of goods here, that was, we just said $10 for exact items, right? We said $10 for our basket of goods. Breakfast items, let's say. How much do you need to buy that same exact goods in Mexico?
Probably like 5 or 6.
I missed the question, what's the question? I didn't understand it.
How much pesos you pay to buy over there in Mexico?
Oh, yeah, like $5,
basket?
like it would be like, whatever that would be, like
Exactly, I would say like probably 80 pesos, 90 pesos, right? So 80 pesos or 90 pesos, let's say we pay to buy the same basket of goods in Mexico, right? But again, if we go nominal by numbers, we have to multiply 10 times 18.68, which would be 180, right? But in reality, that's nominal. But in reality, the purchasing power says $10 equals to actually 80 pesos. Got it?
Wait, I'm sorry. What are we talking about? Not like that. I'm trying to understand. Are we talking about money conversions or are we talking about spending?
We're
She's
talking
talking
about
about
the
purchasing
purchasing
power.
How much power your currency has in your target market. For example, if you want to talk about exact currency exchange, we have to say your $10 can purchase exactly 180 of goods, pesos of goods over there. But in reality, your $10 can go way more.
So
over there.
converted, it
Because
would be $4.81.
this one converted would be $4.
The 90?
See, so it would be $4, and like nominal, if we go by nominal, it ends up $4. But if you go purchasing power, how much power your money has in your country? I have to pay $10 to buy item 1, 2, 3. For the same exact items in the other country, I only need to pay 80 or 90 pesos, right? But if you want to go nominal exact currency exchange, not the purchasing power of your currency, you're actually multiplying. You got it? 10 times 118. Now, later on, they changed the basket of goods to McDonald's Big Mac Index. Now, currently, it's very official, it's common, even in the United Nations, everywhere they're using McDonald's Big Mac Index. I personally disagree, and I'm gonna tell you why I disagree with that. First of all, because McDonald's doesn't exist in all countries around the world. In entire Africa, there's only 4 McDonald's. I know about 27 countries. So it's only 4 McDonald's, 4 countries have McDonald's. Other countries, such as India, McDonald's actually increases the prices for marketing purposes. So again, you can't count on purchasing power because there are all aspects of external aspects of the environment, which is marketing, also included to the pricing. So it's not a very good price, but it's official. International organizations, all intergovernmental organizations, that's what they use. Now, based on Big Mac index, they say, how much do we pay in United States to buy a Big Mac? It says $4.25. I guess it says $4.25 or $4.75, I don't know. How much do we pay here for a Big Mac? $5. So the Big Mac index is all the one that is online.
Yeah.
Probably they average up. If you're paying here in United States, probably they average up United States if you're paying $5. But it's in average United States, it's like I think it's for 25 or 4.75 it says. So let's say in United States we pay 4.75. In China, they pay 20, a little bit less, 19.80. Let's say 20 Chinese yuan, right, for a burger, for McDonald's burger. So this is purchasing power. This is the comparison of purchasing power. If you want to go nominal, $4 Big Mac Big Mac times Chinese yuan is $6, let's say, or $7. It would be about 28 Chinese yuan, right? If you go nominal, exact numbers, right? But that's not the way it works. You go by purchasing power. People that do not have the power to pay 28 Chinese yuan every time for that. So the maximum you can charge in China that basically meets the threshold of purchasing power in China, it's 20 Chinese yuan. So that means here we have the power to pay $4. Over there, they have the power to pay 20 Chinese yuan. Now, one of the most expensive is Scandinavian countries and also Switzerland too. They pay about $8. Easily charge $8, and people easily can afford paying for that. So that's purchasing power. Now, let's look at other indicators online. Are you guys confused?
What is it on Australia, do you know?
No, but we're gonna pull up Big Mac index. It's actually international Big Mac
That's why when we
index.
go to Mexico, we feel rich because we have a lot of
Yeah,
purchasing
exactly,
power.
because it's a purchasing power.
And
It's
then you
not
go to Europe and you
exactly.
feel like you're broke as hell.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Like,
So they don't consider the cost of the actual, the cost of the goods or whatever.
Well, the cost of the good is also cheaper over there too.
That's why,
You have to
but it's
consider
not,
that.
so they consider that also
yeah,
purchasing
yeah,
power,
absolutely.
not just
Oh.
like what they can afford there?
No, it's considered because the entire country, think about this, the labor cost is lower because the purchasing power is lower. That means the labor cost is lower too, right? So they do consider, of course they do consider the cost of the material too, cost of the food too, but it's still, like, that's what I'm saying, some countries like India, it's artificially higher and they don't consider those factors. Why? Because they want to make sure McDonald's stays only for rich people. It's actually marketed as like fine dining, fast food kind of restaurant over there. Not everybody can access.
That's how it is in Mexico
So,
too, though.
oh yeah?
Yeah.
Like I remember I went to Mexico and then I got like a beer and like some food or whatever. And then I only had dollars, so I left a $5 bill for tip, which I thought I was cheaping out. And then I got like greeted by all the waiters or whatever. Oh, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And I was looking at my mom like, oh, they got happy over $5. And she's like, it's because in Mexico, like we're from a little town. She's like, people don't just give $5. That would be the equivalent of giving like a $25, $30 tip from the United States. And I was like,
See, not exactly the nominal, but the purchasing power of $25, $30 of tips. Exactly. That's true, especially if it was a small town.
yeah. She's like, you gotta think pesos here, you know. I was like, all right.
Don't try that in Mexico City. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like the big cities, of course, is more expensive.
This is like a really small.
Now let's compare a couple websites together. For example, here I talked about CIA website. So go to cia.gov, World Fact Book here in the middle of the page. Click on that. Go to select the country. Let's select China, for example, since we talked about it. down. First of all, it's tremendous amount of information, very good information you can find here for your project too, for your paper. You can click on economy, expand the economy section, go down here. GDP, GDP purchasing power, 23.16 trillion, which is, country comparison to the world is number 1. However, if you want to go with official exchange rate, which we just talked about it, nominal, is 12 trillion. You see the difference? Now, when you go World Bank always goes nominal. This is actually a comparison of 1960 to today. It's a very interesting comparison. But let's go with the highest here. Here. So you see United States is 19 trillion, followed by China 12 trillion, which like China is almost 7 trillion, a little bit less, a little more, behind United States. However, when you go here and you click on number 1, ranking purchasing power, China is number 1, and then European Union and United States, India, Japan. So by purchasing power, if you don't exactly divide it by the number, which is currency exchange rate, and you go by purchasing power, China is number 1. Now, keep in mind that China government of China artificially controls the exchange rate, and they kept it low. Why is it like one currency is more, has more value, has appreciated a lot, rather than the other currency? What is the reason for it? What is the reason behind one currency being much stronger than the other currency?
Having a lot of exports.
Very good. Having demand. A lot of demand for your currency, which one kind of demand could be trade with your country. If a lot of people want to do trade with your country, that's demand for your currency. They have to do a lot of exchange with the currency. The other one is investment, which is very important. If countries want to invest in your country, if countries want to basically even deposit their money in your currency exchange in your country because you're a stable country. All around the world, it's not much stable. Like it was usually, in the past, after World War II, it was Western countries that were stable. So a lot of people around the world, they wanted to deposit their monies either in US banks or Switzerland or UK, right? So after 1970, when a lot of investors around the world lost their faith into United States because of the Middle East crisis, a lot of people deposited the money into British banks, and then from the 80s, early 80s, British pounds started increasing in value. Why? Because there's a lot of demand. Now, United States, because it's a lot of demand. European Union, a lot of demand, a lot of investment because they're stable countries, right? So a lot of investments, people would like to deposit their money in those banks because it's safe. A lot of trades, big companies, governments have trade with those countries. So all those demands makes the value stay high, right? If there is no demand, the value will go tremendously down, dramatically down. In 2011, $1 was equal to 13 trillion Zimbabwean currency. Like literally like nothing, right? It was just nothing. We're going to talk about that in chapter 11, what they did and what you can do for the currency. Right now, Venezuela, there's no demand, so their currency is literally worth nothing, right? They have to use bitcoins all the time. So it's based on supply and demand. Now, why China, being the manufacturer of the world, being so much in heavy load of trade, investments in that country, all countries around the world would like to invest in China, why the currency should be 1 equals 6 of Chinese yuan, right? So if you guys remember, Obama's administration was not happy about that at all. They decided they were putting pressure on it that China should actually open the market and let it float. Floating, that means like government takes its hands off and based on supply and demand starts floating. But right now, government of China basically artificially kept the value low so they can, for the purpose of exportation, so they can export. Because if the value is high, it's not worth it to have manufacturers over there, right? So these two, I hope you guys understood the difference between these two. And then let's look at McDonald's Big Mac Index. Okay, since 2008, they are thinking about changing it. They're thinking to change it to Starbucks coffee. Small, regular Starbucks coffee, yeah. That's even,
Wait, what?
They changed the Big Mac index to that, to Starbucks?
they haven't changed it officially yet.
But they're,
But Big Mac is official right now.
yeah, ergonomics.
Wait, I don't get it. What? They're changing the.
Yeah, they're like the value of like Big Mac, like how much we pay, like for in China, we paying 20 Chinese yuan, here we're paying $4, for example. Now, how much we're gonna pay for a small coffee, Starbucks coffee in other countries, that would be the same value as here. That's how they're gonna calculate your purchasing power. Your Big Mac index, this, the good one, show it. The Big Mac index. Okay, Switzerland, because the power is high. Norway. See, this is United States, right? Because we're calculating based on United States. The comparison, all of them, is with United States. So, and then also the currency exchange rate was also based on United States dollar. So here you will see, I don't know if you guys can see it. Switzerland, Norway, Sweden, Brazil, Denmark, Australia, Argentina. You asked Australia, right? Somebody asked Australia, $4.94. Canada, Uruguay, Colombia, Euro, United States, and then Japan, Israel, Chile, New Zealand. It goes down all the way to India. It's 162, and that's actually expensive. Like it's basically, not everybody can afford, because India has a very huge, very poor population. And when we're talking about poor, remember the standard of poor, there is no one international standard of poor. United Nations basically says, we say poverty if for 1 hour of walking distance, you still cannot get medical help. Medical help, we're not talking about physicians or specialists. Could be anyone that can actually have, like help you, could be like nurse, vocational nurse, anyone, right? That's the only definition that I could find that one of the factors, one of the factors of how we calculate poverty, because there's not a specific definition for poverty, like how we calculate our poverty or how India calculates poverty. But like 1 hour of walking distance to the first available radius, basically, to first available medical help. That's called basically poverty. Yes, go ahead, sorry.
I just wanted to ask, is that on, what's the date on that scale?
I don't know, probably.
Because today is.
I don't know honestly. It says 420 United States here. So let's see what is the, it's two, no, it's not. Let's see. Okay, this one it says 2012.
Oh, okay, because today, and I was looking at today in India, it was two point something.
Oh, India you're saying? Oh, okay,
Two
yeah,
point 51.
okay, okay. So that is possible, because last couple of years, India actually had a lot of growth, so that was very possible. Index, that's 2018 here.
Yeah.
2018 here. Oh my gosh, it's 528 United States, okay, yeah. So just in 6 years, we jumped from 420 to 528. That's a lot, only in 6 years.
I think that's
And where is India here? Russia 229. Let's see, where's Russia here? 255. So Russia actually had deflation. The prices went down, right?
Right.
229 here, and it's here at 255. So Russia had deflation, it went down. 317 today is China, and at that time China was, where's China? Russia was one of the only ones that went down, the prices. So this is not today, 2018. Prices. Now in Switzerland, they pay $6.76.
So how do companies like McDonald's decide to change the price? Is it when people order more and more and more Big Macs, they're like, hey, let's make it
No,
$1
not because of that. It's first of all, each industry, we're going to talk also about that too, which is pricing strategy. It's one of your chapters. Each industry has its own pricing, or each business, you can say, has its own pricing strategy. You can go with the costs and then add 10% markup, 10%. You say, okay, I want to mark up everything 10%. The other one is that you go with industry average. You see what your competitors are charging and where I stand in the industry, and that's how I'm going to charge. And I think McDonald's goes with that. They look into how the competitors, of course the supply cost is a factor too, but not as much as in 6 years you jack up like one McDonald's for $1. You know how much is that? All around the United States, if you're selling like $1 per increase in one Big Mac, so that's a lot. I would say, of course, consumer spending, how much customers are paying, are able to pay, cost of products, but industry average too. How much my competitors are charging. Right now we have Chick-fil-A, right now we have like In-N-Out and all that, and people are paying still through those, so let me jack up the prices too.
For their production, when they're gonna be producing a burger, different parts of the world, does it matter? Because if their production cost for the burger is less than what they're actually selling the burger for.
No, but the thing, keep in mind, they're not using exact same suppliers that we're using here. They have their own regional suppliers over there.
So then the cost for production over there is less, that's why they're able to offer that, right?
And one of the major costs for any business in the United States is labor costs.
So the reason that they're able to offer burgers in India for that price is because the labor cost is also a lot less.
And all other suppliers too, yeah.
And all the suppliers.
Absolutely.
Because they wouldn't just be there just to be competitive against the other people, even though they're taking a lot.
Absolutely not. No, they would exit, believe me. Absolutely not, if it's not profitable for them. But the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that McDonald's is a franchise company, right? So they're based on operations and marketing and quality in using the name. It's not basic, they're not giving